The great chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in their floating seats, arranged in a massive circle around the central platform. Light from distant stars poured through the transparent walls of Nexus Prime Station. It was the year 2347 by Earth's calendar, and Ambassador Nathan Cole stood alone in the center of that platform. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. For 15 years, he had served as humanity's voice in this chamber. For 15 years, he had smiled and nodded and played the role of the grateful newcomer. Today, that would end. High Counselor Vethran looked down at him from the highest seat. The counselor was a Therian, a species that resembled tall insects with shimmering blue shells. His compound eyes showed no emotion, but his voice carried the weight of someone who believed himself superior to all others. "You may speak, human representative," Vethran said, "but please be brief. The council has important matters to discuss." Nathan took a slow breath. On any other day, he would have bowed. Today, he simply looked up and met those alien eyes directly. 3 years ago, Nathan began. A plague struck the human colony worlds of Kepler-7, New Brussels, and Harmony Station. The disease spread quickly. Our medical teams requested emergency vaccines from the Galactic Health Authority. A murmur passed through the chamber. Several representatives shifted in their seats. The request was denied, Nathan continued. Not because the vaccines did not exist. They existed. The authority had millions of doses in storage. The request was denied because, and I quote from the official document, "Distribution priority must be given to species of greater galactic significance." He paused and let those words hang in the air. 2 million human beings died. 2 million mothers, fathers, children. They died waiting for medicine that sat in warehouses, unused, because this council decided their lives were worth less than others. High Counselor Vethran made a clicking sound with his mandibles. It was the Therian equivalent of a dismissive laugh. "Ambassador Cole, this matter was reviewed and closed. Administrative delays are unfortunate, but inevitable in an organization of this scale. Humanity has been part of the galactic community for only 80 years. You must understand that older, more established species naturally receive priority in resource allocation." "Naturally," Nathan repeated. His voice was soft, but something in it made several nearby delegates lean back in their seats. "Furthermore," Vethran continued, "humanity should be grateful for its membership in this council. When we found your species, you were barely capable of leaving your own solar system. We gave you faster-than-light travel. We gave you access to galactic trade. We have been patient teachers, and in return, we ask only for your cooperation and your understanding of proper hierarchy." Nathan reached up and touched the diplomatic badge on his chest. It was a small golden circle, the symbol of his authority as Earth's ambassador. He had worn it with pride for 15 years. "I have a message from the United Earth Government," he said. "I was instructed to deliver it personally." He removed the badge from his chest. The small click of the clasp echoed in the silent chamber. Then, slowly and deliberately, he let it fall to the floor. The sound it made when it hit the platform was tiny, but somehow it seemed louder than anything else in that vast room. "Earth formally withdraws from the Galactic Council," Nathan said. "Effective immediately." For a moment, nobody moved. Then Vethran made that clicking laugh again, louder this time. Other delegates joined him. The chamber filled with alien sounds of amusement. "Withdraw?" Vethran said. "And go where? Do what?" "Humanity cannot survive without council support. Your economy depends on galactic trade. Your technology still lags behind ours by centuries. You will come crawling back within a month, begging for readmission." Nathan did not smile. He did not frown. His face showed nothing at all, and somehow that was more unsettling than any expression could have been. "You have made your choice," he said quietly. "Now you will live with ours." He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps were the only sound in the chamber. The laughter had stopped. Something about the way he moved, the absolute certainty in his stride, made the watching aliens feel a strange chill. Ambassador Korath of the Thulian Federation watched Nathan leave. Unlike most council species, the Thulians had always treated humans with respect. Korath had shared meals with human diplomats, learned their games, listened to their music. He knew them better than most aliens ever would. And right now, looking at Nathan Cole's retreating back, Korath felt afraid. He was not the only one. Director Zilmara, head of Galactic Intelligence, sat in the shadows of the upper gallery. She was a Vexian, a species known for their analytical minds and their ability to read patterns that others missed. She had watched the entire exchange with growing unease. Humans were not supposed to act like this. In 80 years of observation, they had always been eager to please, quick to compromise, desperate to fit in. They accepted insults with smiles. They traded unfairly and thanked their partners for the opportunity. They played the role of the humble newcomer perfectly. Too perfectly, Zilmara suddenly realized. She pulled up her datapad and began reviewing old files. Human population growth, steady and unremarkable. Human economic output, modest and dependent on council trade. Human military strength, minimal and defensive only. But as she looked closer, she noticed something strange. There were gaps in the data. Small inconsistencies. Cargo shipments that did not quite add up. Energy readings from human space that exceeded what their known technology could produce. For 80 years, the galaxy had looked at humanity and seen a weak, grateful species still learning to walk among the stars. Zilmara stared at her datapad, and a terrible thought formed in her mind. What if that was exactly what humanity wanted them to see? She looked up at the exit where Nathan Cole had disappeared. High Counselor Vethran was already moving on to other business, dismissing humanity's withdrawal as a tantrum that would soon end. Zilmara said nothing, but she began to prepare for something that no one else in that chamber could yet imagine. Somewhere far away, beyond the borders of council space, Admiral Laura Simmons received a coded message. It contained only 2 words. "It's done." She nodded once, then turned to face the massive view screen in Earth Defense Command. On it, she could see the outlines of ships. Thousands of ships. Ships that officially did not exist. "Begin Phase 2, she said. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. 3 months passed, and the galaxy waited for humanity to break. It never happened. On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vethran assured the delegates that Earth would soon return. "They have no choice," he said in meeting after meeting. "Their colonies cannot survive without our trade networks. Give them time to realize their mistake." But the weeks turned into months, and something strange began to happen. Human ships disappeared from the space lanes. Human merchants stopped arriving at alien ports. Human colonies went silent, their communication beacons switching off one by one. At first, the council celebrated. "They are collapsing," Vethran announced. "Isolation is destroying them, just as we predicted." Then the economic reports started coming in. The Merchant Guild of Praxis lost 40% of its shipping capacity overnight. It turned out that human freighter crews, working for low wages and little respect, had been moving far more cargo than anyone realized. Without them, goods piled up in warehouses with no one to deliver them. The mining colonies of the Outer Reach fell into crisis. Human engineers, dismissed as primitive laborers, had actually been keeping ancient Therian equipment running with clever repairs and creative solutions. When they left, machines broke down and stayed broken. 12 star systems reported food shortages. 23 reported energy grid failures. The galactic economy, which had seemed so stable, began to shake. Director Ziomara stood before the Security Council with a classified report in her hands. Her usual calm expression was gone. In its place was something that looked almost like fear. "We have a problem," she said. She activated the holographic display, showing a map of human-controlled space. It was a small region, barely 1% of the known galaxy. But now it was marked in red, completely dark. "Every probe we send into human territory is destroyed," Ziomara explained. "Not captured, destroyed. Instantly. We cannot see what they are doing in there." General Torvik, commander of the Council's military forces, made a dismissive sound. "So they are hiding. This proves nothing except their fear, does it?" Ziomara pulled up another display. "I have spent 3 months investigating humanity's true capabilities. What I found disturbs me greatly." The display showed images and data that made several council members gasp. 20 years ago, humanity allegedly purchased outdated reactor technology from the Vorn Consortium. Standard transaction, nothing unusual. But I traced the energy output of human colonies over the following decade. It increased by 800%. Their reactors should not be capable of that. She switched to another image. 15 years ago, human scientists published research on faster-than-light communication. Our experts dismissed it as flawed. But I found evidence that the research was not flawed. It was deliberately written to appear flawed. The actual working technology was hidden. More images followed. Ship designs that were never built, except they were. Weapons research that was abandoned, except it was not. A pattern of careful, calculated deception stretching back decades. "They have been lying to us," Ziomara said. "For 80 years, humanity has pretended to be weak, dependent, and inferior. They let us believe we were their teachers and protectors. But the truth is different." She looked around the room at the shocked faces of the Council's leadership. "We do not know what they are actually capable of," she admitted. "And that should terrify every person in this room." High Counselor Vethran stood up, his shell rattling with anger. "This is speculation and paranoia. Humanity is a young species with primitive instincts. They cannot possibly have deceived the combined intelligence services of the Galactic Council for 8 decades. Can they not?" Ziomara asked quietly. Far from Nexus Prime, in a hidden laboratory deep beneath the surface of Mars, Dr. Megan Price walked through corridors filled with impossible machines. She had spent her entire career building things that officially did not exist. Weapons that could disable enemy ships without destroying them. Shields that could absorb attacks that should be unstoppable. Engines that could move faster than any known technology. All of it hidden. All of it waiting. "We always knew this day would come," she said to her assistant, a young man named Kevin Torres. "The Council was never going to treat us as equals. We had to prepare." Kevin looked at the rows of gleaming devices around them. "Do you think it will work? Can we really stand against the entire galaxy?" Megan smiled, but there was sadness in it. "We never wanted to stand against anyone. We just wanted to be left alone to live our lives. But they would not allow that. They exploited us, killed our people, and laughed when we asked for justice." She stopped in front of a massive window that looked out into an underground hangar. Inside it, thousands of warships floated in perfect formation. Ships that were faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything the Council had ever built. "We gave them every chance," Megan said. "They chose to see us as insects beneath their feet. Now they will learn what happens when you step on something that can bite back." On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Korath received a secret message on a hidden frequency. It was from an old friend, a human diplomat he had known for years. The message was short. "The Council is planning to send a fleet to our border. They want to intimidate us into returning. Please tell them not to do this. We do not want to hurt anyone. But if they cross into our space, we will defend ourselves. And they are not ready for what that means. Korath read the message 3 times. Then he went to High Counselor Vethron and begged him to reconsider. Vethron refused. 500 warships will be more than enough, the counselor said. When humans see our military might, they will surrender immediately. They are cowards at heart. Everyone knows this. Korath wanted to argue, but he could see it was useless. The council had spent 80 years believing their own lies about humanity. They could not imagine that they were wrong. 3 days later, the largest military fleet assembled in a century departed for human space. 500 warships, carrying crews from a dozen species, armed with weapons that had conquered countless worlds. General Torvik stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars stream past. "This will be over quickly," he said to his officers. "The humans will see reason. And if they do not, we will teach them a lesson they will never forget." He had no idea how right he was about that last part. At the border of human space, the fleet stopped. Before them was nothing but empty darkness. No ships, no stations, no defenses of any kind. Then a single transmission came through. An automated message in a cold, mechanical voice. "Turn back. This is your only warning." General Torvik laughed and ordered his fleet forward. He would not be laughing for much longer. The Council fleet crossed into human space at exactly midday Galactic Standard Time. 500 warships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. General Torvik sat in his command chair, watching the empty space ahead with a confident smile. "Scan for enemy vessels," he ordered. "Nothing detected, General," his sensor officer reported. "No ships, no stations, no orbital defenses. The area appears completely unprotected." Torvik nodded. This was exactly what he expected. The humans were hiding, hoping the Council would simply go away. They did not understand that retreat was not an option. The galaxy needed to see what happened to species that defied the Council's authority. "Continue forward," Torvik commanded. "Broadcast our demands on all frequencies." His communications officer activated the transmission array. "Attention, human forces. This is General Torvik of the Galactic Council, Defense Fleet. You have 24 hours to surrender and accept reintegration into the Council. Failure to comply will result in military action. Your colonies will be occupied, your ships will be destroyed, and your leadership will face trial for crimes against galactic peace." The message echoed into the darkness. No response came. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Then 6. The alien crews grew restless. Some checked their weapons repeatedly. Others stared at their sensor screens, searching for threats that never appeared. The silence was worse than any battle would have been. "They are trying to make us nervous," Torvik announced over the fleet-wide channel. "It is a primitive tactic and it will not work. Maintain formation and stay alert." But even he could not ignore the growing tension. His officers spoke in whispers. His crew moved with nervous energy. Something felt wrong, though no one could explain what. Then, exactly 6 hours and 42 minutes after the fleet crossed the border, a voice came through every speaker on every ship. "You were warned." The voice was human, male, calm and steady, with no anger or fear in it. That calmness was somehow more frightening than any threat could have been. "Who is this?" Torvik demanded. "Identify yourself immediately." "My name is Commander Daniel Carter, Earth Defense Force. I am speaking to every vessel in your fleet simultaneously. Please listen carefully, because I will not repeat myself." On the bridge of the Council flagship, officers scrambled to trace the transmission. They could not find its source. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. 80 years ago, Daniel continued, humanity joined the Galactic Council. We came in peace, hoping to learn, to grow, to become part of something greater than ourselves. We accepted insults and unfair treatment because we believed that patience and goodwill would eventually earn us respect. Torvik opened his mouth to respond, but found he could not interrupt. The transmission was overriding his communication systems completely. "We were wrong," Daniel said. "The council never saw us as equals. You saw us as servants, laborers, and test subjects. When our people died because you denied them medicine, your leaders called it an acceptable delay. When we asked for justice, you laughed. Somewhere in the darkness of space, something moved. So we prepared. For decades, we built and planned and waited. We hoped we would never need to use what we created. We hoped that someday, somehow, the galaxy would see us as we truly are." Sensor alarms began screaming across the council fleet. Officers shouted in confusion as their screens filled with impossible readings. "Today, we stop hoping. Today, you see." A ship appeared out of nothing, directly in front of General Tarvik's flagship. It was human in design, but like no human vessel anyone had ever seen. Sleek and deadly, it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The name on its hull read Horizon's Edge. Captain Ryan Holloway sat in the command chair of the Horizon's Edge, his hands steady on the controls. Behind him, his crew of 42 worked in perfect silence. They had trained for this moment for years. "All ships, this is Captain Holloway," he said calmly. "Target lock confirmed on 200 enemy vessels. Weapons ready." On the Council flagship, Torvik finally found his voice. "All ships, open fire! Destroy that vessel immediately." 500 warships turned their weapons toward the single human ship. Thousands of missiles and energy beams filled the space between them. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Horizon's Edge did not move. It did not need to. A field of energy expanded outward from the human vessel, invisible to the eye but devastating in its effect. Every weapon fired at the ship simply stopped. Missiles went dead. Energy beams scattered into harmless light. None of it came within a kilometer of the hull dot. Then the Horizon's Edge fired back. It was not an explosion. There was no flash of light, no wave of destruction. Instead, something far more terrifying happened. Across 200 Council warships, every system shut down simultaneously. Weapons went silent. Engines died. Life support flickered to emergency backup power. The ships were not destroyed. They were disabled, completely and instantly, by a single enemy vessel. General Torvik stared at his darkened bridge in disbelief. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the faces of his terrified crew. Around him, 200 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy drifted helplessly through space. Commander Daniel Carter's voice returned. Still calm, still steady. "We could have killed every being in this fleet," he said. "Your shields cannot stop our weapons. Your armor means nothing to us. We chose not to kill you. Remember that." The remaining 300 Council ships had not been touched. Their crews watched in horror as their disabled companions floated past like dead things. "Take your wounded ships and go home," Daniel continued. "Tell your council what you saw today. Tell them that Earth will not be conquered, will not be intimidated, and will not surrender. We want nothing but to be left in peace. But if you come for us again, we will not be so merciful." The transmission ended. For a long moment, no one in the Council fleet moved or spoke. Then, without a single order being given, the remaining ships began to turn around. They collected their disabled companions and retreated toward Council space. General Torvik sat alone on his powerless bridge, surrounded by the soft hum of emergency systems. He had led the greatest military force the Council had ever assembled, and it had been defeated by a single ship in less than 5 minutes. Somewhere in the darkness behind him, He could feel the human vessel watching, waiting. He had come to teach humanity a lesson. Instead, he had learned one himself. News of the disaster at the Kepler boundary spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within days, every species knew what had happened. Within weeks, everything began to change. On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vethran addressed the delegates with his usual confidence. "The incident was unfortunate," he said, "but it changes nothing. Human technology may be more advanced than we believed, but they are still one species against hundreds. If we unite our forces, we can overwhelm them through sheer numbers." But when he looked around the chamber, he saw something he had never seen before. Fear. The representatives who once hung on his every word now avoided his gaze. When he called for a vote to form a grand military alliance against Earth, the motion failed. Only 12 species supported it. The rest refused. "We will not sacrifice our children for your wounded pride," the Vorn ambassador said bluntly. "Humanity disabled 200 warships without killing a single person. They showed mercy when they could have shown destruction. Perhaps we should ask ourselves why we are so eager to provoke them further." Vethran's shell rattled with anger, but there was nothing he could do. The Council's authority had always rested on the belief that it was the supreme power in the galaxy. Now that belief was shattered not far from the great halls of Nexus Prime. Smaller species began reaching out to Earth through secret channels. The Malari, a race of gentle creatures who had been bullied by the Council for centuries, were among the first. They sent a simple message: "We want no part in any war against you. We ask only to be left in peace." The human response surprised them. "We want the same thing. Perhaps we can help each other." Within months, dozens of species had made similar contact. The Council had ruled through fear and economic control, forcing weaker races to accept whatever terms were offered. Now those races saw another option. Humanity was asking for nothing except friendship and mutual respect. It was more than the Council had ever given them. Director Zielmara watched these developments with growing alarm. She presented report after report to the Council leadership, warning them that their alliance was crumbling. Each time, Vethran dismissed her concerns. "They are small, insignificant species," he said. "Let them run to the humans. When we finally crush Earth, they will come crawling back." But Zielmara knew the truth. The Council was not preparing to crush anyone. They were struggling just to hold themselves together. Fleets that once moved freely through the galaxy now stayed close to home, afraid to venture near human space. Trade routes had been permanently disrupted. The economic damage grew worse every day. Then came the defection that changed everything. Ambassador Korath of the Thulian Federation had been a loyal council member for 40 years. His species was respected, his opinion valued. When he announced that he was leaving for human space, it sent shockwaves through the entire government. "I cannot remain silent any longer," Korath said in his final broadcast. "The Council has become corrupt, cruel, and dangerous. But worst of all, they are planning something terrible. They have a weapon, a device capable of destroying entire planets. And they intend to use it against Earth." The broadcast was cut off before he could say more, but the damage was done. Panic spread through the Council chambers. Representatives demanded answers. Vethran denied everything, but his denials rang hollow, because Korath was telling the truth. Deep in a secret facility on the Council's military headquarters, a weapon existed that few knew about. It had been built centuries ago, designed to end wars that could not be won any other way. It had never been used, because even the most ruthless Council leaders had feared its power. Now, Vethran was preparing to change that. But humanity was not waiting for the Council to make the first move. On a single night, without any warning, human forces struck. Not at planets or civilian targets. but at the 5 largest shipyards in Council space and the primary weapons research facility where new warships were being built. Admiral Laura Simmons had planned the operation for months. Every detail was perfect. Every target was calculated. And the results were exactly what she intended. 3,000 human soldiers, arriving in ships that appeared from nowhere, captured all 6 facilities in less than 2 hours. They disabled guards without killing them. They secured reactors without damaging them. They took control of everything without firing a single lethal shot. When it was over, the Council's ability to build new warships had been completely eliminated. But not a single person had died. Commander Daniel Carter broadcast a message to the galaxy shortly afterward. "We have taken your shipyards," he said. "Not to destroy them, but to prevent you from building weapons to destroy us. We have captured your soldiers, and we will return them unharmed. We have caused no deaths, because we do not want death. We want only to be left alone." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was heavy with sadness. "Dr. Megan Price will now share information that we hoped we would never need to reveal." Megan's image appeared on screens across the galaxy. Behind her were scientific displays showing detailed analyses of Council technology, biology, and infrastructure. "For 80 years, we studied you," she said. "We learned your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, your fears. We could have used this knowledge to destroy you many times over. We chose not to. We built weapons of defense, not conquest. We prepared for the day when we might need to protect ourselves, not the day when we might want to attack others." She looked directly into the camera, and something in her eyes made billions of beings across hundreds of worlds feel very small. "We know how to break you," she said softly. "Every species, every fleet, every world. We know, and we have chosen not to. Please, do not make us reconsider that choice." On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vethron watched the broadcast with cold fury burning in his heart. His power was crumbling. His allies were abandoning him. His military had been humiliated, but he still had one option left. That night, he gave secret orders to a small group of loyal officers. The planet-killing weapon was to be activated and aimed at Earth. If he could not control humanity, he would erase them from existence. It was madness. It was desperation. It was the last act of a leader who had run out of choices. And somewhere in human space, sensors detected the weapon powering up, and alarms began to sound. Admiral Simmons looked at the data and felt her heart grow cold. They had hoped it would never come to this, but they had prepared for it anyway. The planet killer was called the Voidlands. It had been built 400 years ago by a council that no longer existed, designed to end wars that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. In all that time, it had never been fired. The very existence of such a weapon was considered so shameful that most records of it had been erased. Now it was moving through space. Aimed directly at Earth. Admiral Laura Simmons stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters, watching the weapon's trajectory on a massive holographic display. Around her, officers worked with quiet efficiency, their faces grim but determined. "Time to impact?" she asked. 14 hours at current speed, her tactical officer replied. "The weapon will enter firing range in 12. Laura nodded slowly. She had known this day might come. From the very beginning, when humanity first started building its secret fleet, they had planned for the possibility that the Council might try to destroy them completely. "Is the countermeasure ready?" she asked. Dr. Megan Price's voice came through the communication system. "Ready and waiting, Admiral. We reverse-engineered the Voidlance's design 7 years ago. We know exactly how to stop it." "Good." Laura turned to her communications officer. "Get me Captain Holloway." Seconds later, Ryan Holloway's face appeared on screen. He was already on the bridge of the horizon's edge, his crew at battle stations. "Admiral, he said with a slight nod. Ryan, you know what needs to be done. Take the fleet and intercept that weapon. Disable it if possible. Destroy it if necessary. And the crew operating it? Laura's expression softened slightly. Bring them home alive if you can. They are following orders from a madman. That does not make them our enemies. Ryan nodded. Understood. We will get it done. The connection ended, and Laura turned back to the display. 200 human warships were already moving toward the Voidlands, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space in the Council's secret command center. High Counselor Vethran watched the same display with very different emotions. His officers had detected the human fleet almost immediately. They know, his weapons officer said nervously. They are coming to stop us. Let them try, Vethran replied. His voice was steady, but there was something broken in his eyes. The Voidlands cannot be stopped. Once it fires, nothing can survive. Not even humanity's precious technology. But as he watched the human ships approaching, doubt crept into his heart. These humans had surprised him before. They had revealed capabilities that no one thought possible. What else might they be hiding? The two forces met in the empty space between stars. The human fleet surrounded the Voidlands and its escort of 40 Council warships. For a moment, both sides simply watched each other. Then Commander Daniel Carter's voice came through on all frequencies. This is Commander Carter of the Earth Defense Force. We know what you are carrying. We know what you intend to do. This is your final chance to stand down. Vethran's voice responded, harsh and desperate. You cannot stop the Voidlands. Nothing can. Your entire species will die today, and the galaxy will be cleansed of your arrogance. We do not want to fight you, Daniel said calmly. We never wanted any of this. But we will not let you murder 8 billion innocent people. Power down the weapon now, or we will be forced to act. Never. Daniel closed his eyes for just a moment. When he opened them again, his voice carried the weight of a decision that would change the galaxy forever. So be it. The human fleet moved as one. The Horizon's Edge led the attack, its weapon systems activating with a soft hum of power. The Council escort ships tried to fight back, but their weapons simply bounced off human shields. Within minutes, every defending vessel was disabled. Their crews trapped but unharmed. The Voidlands itself was more difficult. It was massive, heavily armored, and protected by defensive systems that had been built to withstand anything the galaxy could throw at them. But humanity had spent 7 years studying those systems. They knew every weakness, every flaw, every vulnerability. Captain Holloway guided the Horizon's Edge into position directly above the weapon's main power core. Fire the countermeasure, he ordered. A beam of focused energy, tuned to a very specific frequency, struck the Voidlands' heart. The weapon system screamed in protest as circuits overloaded and power failed. The charging sequence that would have destroyed Earth stopped with seconds to spare. The Voidlands went dark, drifting helplessly through space. On Nexus Prime, the news arrived within hours. The weapon had failed. Humanity had survived, and evidence of Vethran's attempted genocide was being broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. The Council collapsed overnight. Species that had remained loyal out of fear now rose up in anger. Representatives who had supported Vethran turned against him to save themselves. Within days, the High Counselor was arrested by his own guards and placed in a detention cell. In the chaos that followed, Commander Daniel Carter addressed the galaxy one final time. We did not ask for this conflict, he said. We came to the galactic community hoping to find friendship and cooperation. Instead, we found exploitation, contempt, and ultimately attempted murder. We defended ourselves because we had no other choice. He paused, and when he continued, his voice was gentler. But we are not interested in revenge. We do not want to conquer, or dominate. We want only to live in peace with those who will treat us as equals. To any species willing to stand beside us as partners and friends, we extend our hand in welcome. The old order has fallen. Let us build something better together." The response was overwhelming. Dozens of species immediately petitioned to join the new alliance that formed around Earth. The Thulians, led by Ambassador Korath, were among the first. The Malari followed, then the Vexians, then countless others who had suffered under council rule for centuries. A new galactic government took shape, built on principles of equality and mutual respect. It was not perfect, and there would be challenges ahead. But for the first time in galactic history, every species had an equal voice. Years later, a young alien student sat in a classroom on Nexus Prime, studying the history of the Great Transformation. He raised his hand and asked his teacher, Ambassador Korath, a question that had puzzled him for weeks. Why did humanity not simply conquer the galaxy? The student asked. They had the power. They could have ruled us all. Korath smiled, remembering old friends and old battles and the long road that had brought them to this moment. Because they were never the monsters we feared, he said softly. They were the protectors we needed. We were simply too blind to see it. Outside the window, ships from 100 different species moved peacefully through the stars. Human vessels flew alongside alien craft, their crews working together to build a future that once seemed impossible. And somewhere, in the quiet spaces between worlds, the children of Earth looked up at the cosmos. They had helped to save and smiled. They had finally found their place among the stars.